Welcome to the introduction of drawing isometric. Why do we have isometric? It's a way to depict three-dimensional objects when you're undertaking the design process. This is obviously the keep up, the famous Melbourne invention, and is also designed in Melbourne by Cobalt Niche. So when they undertook the design process, they would have been communicating this design to other designers, the client, as well as the manufacturer. So it's a really good way to, or drawing method, to depict a three-dimensional object. And it's really used strongly in industrial design. Often it's also accompanied with orthogonal drawings, which are great for the manufacturing process to show, in this case, a side view and then a top view of the product, which also includes all the dimensioning so it can go to manufacture. Take that out of the way now. Isometric drawing is also strongly used as an exploded view, which is really good for the manufacturing process as well, to depict the different components that are being used and how it's all assembled together. This is the exercise sort of layout that you'll see my designs to be. Really important just to read through what you need to go through and undertake. A little icon of what set square you need to use, what angles are going to be used. So right angle 30 degrees and all the way around to 150 degrees. This just goes through what you need to undertake. At the end you need to go through and add tone, because at the moment it's all made up of lines. To depict it's a three-dimensional object, it's really good to go through and render it. So if we're saying the light source is coming in this direction, and obviously also take really close note of that arrow that is depicting it's coming from more so this angle rather than behind the object. These surfaces are going to capture a lot more light than other surfaces, such as obviously underneath, and these side surfaces won't have so much light. Take note of the starting point, so it's 120 by 40, that's all in millimeters, so 120 mil in, 40 up will be the front corner of the object. Isometric is a paraline drawing, so like planimetrics, it's drawn from the front corner and your verticals remain vertical, but to depict depth and depict length, they recede at a 30-degree angle or all the way around to 150 degrees. You'll see dimensions are only included once, so it's not too confusing. In this case, some of my drawings that might be also too can create a little bit of confusion. So if it's not shown all these areas, because it's paraline, we know that's going to be the dimensions for all of these. Take note of the scale of it. As I said, all measurements in millimeters. Now, what equipment do you need? You need a pencil, 4H, 2H, super sharp, because isometric drawing, isometric drawing and industrial design, you're dealing with products, millimeters matter. So making sure it's nice and precise is really important, and the lines are nice and thin. Measure twice, cut once, essentially. 0.4 pen to go over and complete the drawing in the end, an eraser, some masking tape to tape it down. Really importantly, this guy, which is called a T-square, and we'll set that up very shortly. And really importantly, this, which is a set square. Never use the sort of angle without any numbers around it. So right angle, you're obviously going to get those verticals. 30 degrees this end, you're going to be able to capture the 150 degrees, and then if you flip it over, you're going to be able to capture the 30 degrees, so it recedes out to the right and left. Setting up your page, you should have roughly a little drafting table, so the table should pivot up. Okay, when it pivots up, you might need a hook on the T-square. The top tends to be the best, and it will sit on the page. I might zoom that out a little bit so you can see a bit more. The T-square, that hooks on the side of the table, as you can see there, and it pivots up and down. So it makes it easy to draw horizontal lines all the way through, as long as you've got your page set up correctly. Let's set up the page. We're going to be using large A3 cartridge. You can also use isometric drawing paper, so it has a little diamond pattern placed all over it in light blue. It's really good in terms of, especially for rough sort of quick sketches, but we've got to make sure we be able to draw using the correct equipment and drawing it correctly. The light blue grid, that if you photocopy it correctly, it will eliminate it, so it's a really good system of going over a drawing in fineliner, changing the contrast on the photocopier and being able to eliminate the blue lines, so you're left with your own drawing. Setting up your page is really important because you're not going to be able to complete some of the drawings in one lesson. So you've got to set it up correctly firstly, so when you come back, all the lines and all the work you've done previously, you can put the T-square, you can put the set square back on, and they're all going to realign. So use the correct process, which is, I'll just set the page up there for now, set the T-square on the edge, roughly place it there, set the piece of paper underneath, it will lodge in just under the numbers. And I'll go through and just put some masking tape on all the corners. So as long as you do that time, when you finish your work and you put your name on it, and you come back, you set up the same structure, same process, you're going to get the same lines. So as I said, the T-square, that runs up and down, and the set square, that runs left and right. So you should be able to, no matter where you're drawing, you can sort of go through and coordinate where you need to draw from. So going over the lines again, if you need to recede out to the left, you're drawing a line with the set square set that way. If you're going out to the right, just flip it, go out the other direction, and vertically setting the T-square that way. Let's get drawing. The drawing I'm going to do is this guy here. Okay, which I've just got from a book. I'm going to set that there, hopefully it doesn't move. I've got its basic dimensions, so it should be 200 length, 120 deep, and 140 high. Sorry for the delay there. When you're setting up, it's really important to set up, I don't really have a location at the moment, but I'm going to set up roughly right down below here. If you set it too high, you're likely to run out on top of the page because you're often drawing, as you can see, quite the height of it. So that's going to be my starting point. I'm going to draw a line going straight up. So where the front corner is, located down here, I'm going to draw a line out to the left. And that should be 120. I tend to like just to draw the line nice and lightly first, and then I'll go through and measure it, and I'll draw a line out in that way at 200. So I'll go through and set that. That should be 200. That's located there. This should be 120. That's right there. And for now I'm going up 40 mil. So that's located there. So you can see now we've gotten to, on this drawing, this location here, this location back here, and over here, and I'll subtract this line later on. Draw a few more lines, then I'll pause it and I'll continue to draw and see the end result. Welcome back to the isometric drawing. I've gone through and completed it. You can see I've gone through and used the fine liner to fine line it all. When you are fine lining, rather than using the set square that way, you can see there's a bevel. So if you rotate it, and when you line the pen up with it, it won't touch where the ink section is. It won't touch where the beveling is. So you won't get long lines along the set square, which when you rub over your page, it won't transfer onto the page. So it's just to eliminate those smudges that you get when you run a ruler that you've been doing a whole lot of lines with a fine liner transferring onto the page. You can see I've left this section here till last. That's the way I've gone through and drawn it.
because I know these dimensions and angles are at 30 degrees, 90 degrees and roughly 150 degrees. We don't know those, and we don't really need to know them. If you complete everything else and then you finish off with that in that location, finish off with those unknown angles. So I'll just quickly finish that and we'll be happy with our drawing. You can then go through and scan your drawing and render it in Illustrator, Photoshop, or use coloured pencils. Copics work really well to show the three-dimensional form, because at the moment we're obviously got it's all just a bunch of lines. If you go through and render it, it gives it that that three-dimensional